Oh, hi there. I'm Kat. Thank you for joining me for Chat with Kat. We're going on a journey and having conversations with people from a variety of backgrounds and experiences. And during this journey, we're going to probably laugh and smile. We'll have moments of compassion and cry. We may be angry or feel confronted, and we may be amazed and just need to ponder. So, whatever the emotion is that comes up, let's take a moment to breathe and ask ourselves why we're feeling this. And also, let's ask, what can I learn from this? So go ahead and like, share, subscribe to this, and make sure that your friends and family and colleagues and anyone you feel could get something from this gets to see this. So let's get on with our journey with Chat with Kat. Hi, James. It's so good to see you. I'm so glad that you were able to come and join me here and do a chat with Kat. I know some people are going to know who you are, and I know a lot of people don't know who you are. So maybe just take a couple minutes and tell us a little bit about who you are.
Okay, so yeah, my name's James Ray Denomy, and I emphasize on the Ray because a numerologist told me many years ago that was the key to me embracing my destiny, or whatever word you want to call that. But yeah, we both are regulars. At least I'm partially regular on the self-perfected calls that Mitch and Drake host regularly every week, which they get credit for that. But I actually go back a lot further than the creation of Self-Perfected. And in Self-Perfected, the tool called TechnoTutor is really emphasized. Is that the right word? It's like advocated for. Mm-hmm. And believe it or not, I was actually part of all this before TechnoTutor even existed. And yeah, so I've got a lot of history with everything to do with this, and some of it is not pretty, but we'll get into that as we go through. So, but just to give people an idea of my personality, like I'm the kind of person who literally questions everything to understand what it is I'm doing, and that's actually what got me questioning things about the world, and eventually finding the people who eventually created TechnoTutor as well as Self-Perfected. And yeah, it's like my journey goes back like 18 years practically. So yeah, I guess that's the best introduction to my story.
Okay. And you and I have known each other for years too, because we've known each other, I think, even back in the gin days when we were doing our clubhouses then. So that's how we met. So I think we've known each other for at least 13 years, maybe longer.
And when did you start showing up at the clubhouse that the Vancouver clubhouse that's existed all along there?
Yeah. Well, when I met Avery at a conference, he mentioned he had a clubhouse group, and I wasn't really happy with the clubhouse I was with. I wasn't connecting with people there. So I was like, okay, well, this sounds cool. I'll come, and it's at your house, and that seems a little more casual, and come check it out. And that's when I started there. So that was, I mean, that's got to be at least 13 years ago, maybe longer.
13 years ago? Okay,
yeah.
So that's two, maybe 3 years after I started participating there.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's yeah. It's been a lot. I mean, I've lost track, but it's at least that long.
Right.
Yeah, when we've been connected to each other and through the clubhouse and stuff, and then as things progressed, we kind of just moved along and discovered new things and went, okay, maybe we'll take a look at this and see what this is about, and okay, let's go with this thing now, and yeah. So cool. You said you were kind of on this journey for like 18 years of just asking questions, trying to figure out why. Like, what really led you into that then?
Well, that's going back quite a ways. I guess I can start at the beginning. Like, it all led to me discovering GIN, like the Global Information Network you mentioned. And that was in 2010. But before that, what happened was it all going back to like 2004 was kind of the first seed was planted of my awakening, where I was in accounting school of all things, fresh out of high school. And this one guy I would talk a lot with in class. I went to hang out with him a couple times, and when I would go to his place in his basement, it was like literally wall to wall conspiracy theory. Like everything you could think of about conspiracy theory, his basement was plastered with it. And I had no conception of, like, secret societies, like Illuminati, everything that you would associate to well, I don't know if there was alien stuff on the wall, but it was at least conspiracy theory,
Mm-hmm.
earth-based conspiracy theory on that wall. So and then fast forward to about 2007, I found myself in the Amway business, where I
Mm-hmm.
was introduced to like a lot of networking and a lot of people who were into like the success-minded stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was doing that, I was introduced to the movie The Secret when that happened, and when I discovered that movie, it was like almost exactly what I was looking for, because I was like really starting to search for answers. And like that movie was really the beginning of me realizing, wait a second, I can
Mm-hmm.
create my reality. And so the biggest crux of it all was that even in like the Amway business, when I would ask questions about why things don't make sense in the world, very few, if any, people wanted to answer the questions. It was like, no, just
Mm-hmm.
accept that this is the world, the way the world is, all that. And I just, even then, I wasn't happy with that. But that the secret ideology, or I shouldn't say ideology, the idea behind the secret stuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2008, when like the whole financial system crashed, I started really questioning things and asking myself, wait a second, why would the government let this happen? Why would the government
Mm-hmm.
allow the entire financial system to crash, savings and retirement funds being wiped out? And that was when, like, really I started getting almost annoyed that no one would answer my questions. So and during this whole time, all of my friends and family who I knew back then, I would go to them and ask them, like, doesn't none of this make sense to you? And no one, even in my circles, wanted to answer these questions. They had no desire to figure it out. So like I went about my life, and it was in late 2009 I said, okay, you know what? I'm sick of this, because like in The Secret, they mention how there's these secret societies supposedly exist. So I thought to myself, okay, you know what? If no one in my life wants to um, figure these things out with me, I'm going to find people that want to figure
Mm-hmm.
these things out, or like find people that want to support each other in our dreams and desires and all that kind of stuff. So I put an ad out on Craigslist, because that was the thing to do back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I, after a month, I got an email from a guy saying, I saw your post about like creating a group. Come here this night, this time. I think we have what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to it, and the meeting was at Avery's office back when he was in ADT security. And he was the first person I met there. And we went into it, and I started asking him questions, and then he brought the whole presentation. Back then it was all about like how these secret societies exist, and how like they want to, this club, the Global Information Network Club, wants to allow people to learn how to create their own reality, make money and all these things. And at this point, like the whole idea of secret societies was still kind of like mysticism for me, because I wasn't completely sure if they actually existed.
Mm-hmm.
So when I asked Avery point blank, so wait, these secret societies actually exist, and he just said, oh yeah, they exist. And like my jaw practically hit the floor. I'm like, oh my god, like this stuff is actually real. So basically this was in like February, March of 2010. And I remember that it was kind of funny, because and I know that Avery's going to remember this, but Avery Sebastian, the guy who was originally the guy that brought me in, I was just questioning. I was asking them like 100 questions over the month that I would attend before I joined.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny looking back at this because I said to them, okay, I don't know if you guys are in on this, like this is some kind of scam or whatever you guys are doing, but like, you know, if this is the best thing that, if this is what you guys say it is,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I will be the best thing that ever happens to your group because I'll advocate for it. But if it's a scam, then, you know, I'm warning you right now, I'm not going to be happy, and like, no one's going to know anything good about you online. But they would just kind of laugh and like, hey, do what you want, man. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
it was when they said they didn't care about what I did. That's when I knew that they were being legit because they had no desire to pressure me or anything. So I joined, and as soon as, like, you know, you've obviously listened to Your Wish Is Your Command, and
Oh
like
gosh,
that,
so many times. Yeah.
listening to that was like the best week of my life up until recently, of course. It was every single question I'd ever had answered. And that's when my life started changing. You know, unfortunately, a lot of people around me stopped wanting to talk to me because I was like suddenly happy. I wasn't depressed anymore. Well, one thing to be aware of was from the early 2000s up until that point, like I was very depressed, and the only solution to that, and I had also been diagnosed with Crohn's disease in the early 2000s as well. But my doctor, because I kept coming back saying I'm depressed, and I don't think I've told you this story, but they put me on antidepressants, and they kept cranking up the dose because they weren't getting what they wanted out of me. I like I just kept asking questions. And then literally, and let me just be clear, I'm not advocating for going cold turkey on medication here, but the second I listened to Your Wish Is Your Command completely, I literally cut every medication I was on. Like, I threw it all out. And you know, my parents like almost had a heart attack when I did that, but it was the beginning of me really waking up. So basically, I went through all of the gin training and really got into it, and then eventually started going up the levels. You know, you upgrade to the higher levels in gin, and it was about a year after I first joined, that I was really talking to Avery a lot, because like, you know, when you can tell that someone knows stuff, like it's just like a gut feeling. My gut told me that Avery knew a lot of things. So like, I really, like, that whole year, the whole year of 2010, I was listening to him, like literally hanging on his every word almost. And I even tried to get into the business he was in at the time, even though I wouldn't have been able to sell like a bottle of water to someone who was thirsty out of their minds. Like, that's how out of it I was back then. So that's when, like, it was in 2011, I was living in another city in Canada, and I came back the summer of 2011, and Avery called me because he knew I was in town, and he said, "I'll come to my office tomorrow." I'm like, okay. So I went there, and I think Elisa Rosero was also in that office too. And he was like, "Check this out. I just got this program." And what it was the precursor of TechnoTutor that he had on his computer. So he said, "Okay, try this. Like, press it and look at the screen, and you know what happens when you know how TechnoTutor works." And I saw it. And I'm like, "What was that?" Like, I saw it, and it spoke to me almost like spiritually, resonantly. I'm not sure what the word would be, but like, it spoke to me what it did. Like, it affected me on a very deep level. So a year later, I got it. And then over the next 2 years, I got into the business side of it. And from then on, because of that, like that took me and Avery's relationship to a much higher level. And I spent the next, I'm going to say 5 years really spending a lot of time with him. Like he was like, what he was trying to do is he was trying to get me to the next level of life, but I did not know how to get myself there. And I learned so much from him. I eventually met a lot of other people within the Gin and Techno Tutor crowd. And I even met the other founders of Techno Tutor at, within those years, and like got a really good relationship with those people going. I'm just making sure I got all the details that are important in that story, because a lot of stuff happened in that time. But when it was around 2018, 2019 that I was really starting to get really understand what Techno Tutor was about. And like I had done a lot of serious, intense work with Techno Tutor because I was a very, very emotionally unstable person, like pre 2014. Like, I mean, if you were to ask Elisa, I would go to meetings before 2013 and I would just start rambling about stuff. And Elisa would always say, yeah, he talked for half an hour, but nobody knows what the hell he said. So that was my trademark pre 2014. But then I started doing some really deep work, and it helped to really make me self-aware, for lack of a better word, back then. And like I said, the following years, Avery especially really worked on helping me grow. However, I mean, this is kind of where it gets a bit dark, but it needs to be said to understand where things went. But when in 2018, 2019, Avery could see I was ready to get to the next level because I understood really deep down what Techno Tutor did. Like I really understood the science and a lot of other things about it. And it was suggested that I, take Avery out to lunch one day just to thank him for all of that. I'm like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. And that day I was planning to go car shopping because I was sick of the van that I had been using for a long time that basically made me look like some weird guy in his 80s. Like it was it was like some old Mercury Villager with like a navy blue on it. It wasn't appealing. And when Avery found this out, he was like, I don't want to say he very enthusiastically started making enthusiastic suggestions about what I get. And we found this one car that he's just like, if James can embrace this car, it's going to change his life. And I mean, looking back on it, looking back, it's funny now, but it was only recently that I could really talk about it in a funny way. But he encouraged me using the things he knew I would eventually want. And keep in mind, I didn't even know that I wanted these things at the time because I was still had my head up there, if you know what I mean. And I was still quite partially unaware of myself. But he's saying all these things like, in the next 5 years, you need to get your business, you need to get yourself, get business going. You need to get a girlfriend. You're eventually going to have a family. It's like he could see something in me that I couldn't even see. And he had everything almost mapped out. It was, I mean, looking at it, it was quite quite cool to look at it. But basically he's like, I got a whole plan for you. I mean, however, like I decided to get this car. I didn't really want it, but it's what happened. It's the path that I was on. And, I just recently came to the point of being like, it had to happen this way. But a few months later, when I had a conversation with him, I really disagreed with some of the things that he suggested I do. And my God, like within like a few minutes, this like almost instantly, this rage came up in me that I had never experienced before. Like just unfiltered anger. And after that point, everything just changed for like the worst, I'll say, because it's like, I guess you could say I I felt betrayed in a way, but
Mm.
I couldn't even process how I was feeling because it's like, imagine you're in a room and suddenly everything catches fire and you can't even process it. You're just literally reacting to try to figure out how to get yourself out of it. It was
Mm-hmm.
kind of like almost like that, but like I just couldn't process what was going on for me. But again, it was part of my journey. I mean, I don't want to make this sound ugly, but it's just, I'm looking at the best way to describe it. So like I got really, really angry at him because
Mm-hmm.
he was trying to help me take my life to the next level. I don't think I was quite ready for it.
Mm.
And I really took it personally, even
Mm-hmm.
though looking back, there was no other way to do it. And I think what happened was it was like it's time for you to really go to the next level in your life and like try to take responsibility for yourself. Just because like keep in mind that my friends and family before I discovered gin were all about like being comfortable in the system, not not going beyond the status quo. So that was
Mm-hmm.
my normal of like trying to seek mediocrity, trying to seek status quo. And there's nothing wrong with that for people that want that. But
Mm-hmm.
over the next year, actually like over the next 2 years, like the anger was so overwhelming and I would like literally call Avery some days and just like literally yell into the phone where I'm sure he was like doing that and like she could still hear what I was saying, but the phone was probably a foot away from him. And so it was, it was both funny, but yet also uh, disturbing, I guess you could
Mm-hmm.
say, because he didn't know what to do. No one knew what to do. I mean, I would
Right.
call people and complain, and everyone just like at the time, everyone who would listen to me is just like, well, what do you want to do? Just get rid of the car if it's that big of a deal. But it was like it was this internal conflict I was dealing with. So um, the probably the biggest regret I've ever had was that I was so angry that nobody would take me seriously that in some twisted sense of logic, I want to say I want to say what was I thinking, but I wasn't thinking,
Mm-hmm.
no, whenever you're angry, there's no logic behind it, or at least
Mm-hmm.
very little. So I did something that, like, for lack of a better words, I attacked Techno Tutor online. I attacked Self Perfected online and everything involved and everything associated. It was, yeah, I don't know what I was thinking when I did that. But
Mm-hmm.
what happened was the the interesting thing about that was that simultaneously I was building relationships with people within Techno Tutor who really shared my interests. One person in particular that shared one of my interests,
Mm-hmm.
because like a roommate from years previous had been into the same subject, and it's a subject that I have a lot of interest in. I mean, I don't want to identify who this person was because if I say the subject, most people will know what I'm talking about. But I developed some really close relationships with some Techno Tutor people, and I also got in contact with a guy who was trying to run for mayor of a city in Canada
Mm-hmm.
because he was trying to make a difference. And I thought, and he was basically part of like the protesting crowd because
Mm-hmm.
the pandemic was going on at this time.
Right.
So um, I I knew that if he won that, because like if enough people were awake in that city,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it was Calgary, the city of Calgary. If you look up the candidates, you'll probably figure out who it was. But this guy was very legally knowledged,
Mm-hmm.
so I yeah I had been doing a lot, like how in Techno Tutor there's actually a legal curriculum. And I
Yeah.
had been doing a lot of legal stuff, like a lot of the legal curriculum leading up to that point, because like the pandemic was going on. I had to figure out what my rights actually were, because I
Mhm.
refused to do any of the stuff during the pandemic. And
Mhm.
so I so when I got into contact with this guy about helping him with his mayoral campaign, I he really understood the law, and
Mhm.
I was able to and there's a reason I'm mentioning this, which I'll get to in a few minutes. But when I talked to him, I had done just enough of the legal curriculum that like whatever instability I had towards the law went
Mhm.
away. And just to give you a reference, um, my father went to law school, but he never passed the bar. My older sister is a full-blown law lawyer, passed the bar and everything. And so, like, understanding the law is in my DNA.
Mhm.
So, using the curriculum, using that part of Techno Tutor, I actually was able to teach myself law. And so, when this guy, he basically in one night he explained things enough that I started understanding the entire like context of law. And however, he lost his mayoral campaign right around the same time that everything I was doing to Techno Tutor was discovered. So it was
Mm.
like a double blow to my life, which
Mhm.
really hit me hard. And but funny enough, like everyone, like a lot of people blocked me. I lost my ability to participate in the Techno Tutor distributor calls, which is why some people are wondering, why haven't I seen this guy in calls lately? So, full disclosure on that. And like I know that I came very close to losing my my place in the Techno Tutor business, because I'm an area distributor in Canada.
Mhm.
So it was that wasn't the greatest time in my life. But right around that time I actually started to meet people within like the protesting movement, if you will, that they saw through the problem. And right around the time that all that happened, I'd go to this guy's warehouse, like a guy who ran a business in the Vancouver area, who had been seen through government corruption for years. He wanted to create like something with his business for people who were affected by the mandates. And
Mhm.
myself, and at one point there was 11 other people, 12 of us combined. We actually created an unofficial community center within this guy's business. And
Mhm.
my legal knowledge, I volunteered with this other guy this other European guy who understood the law. Like we were on Mondays, we actually would go and answer people's legal questions about like,
Mm.
I'm being told I have to do this, or like someone's threatening me with this. And we would like literally say,
Mhm.
okay, well, just do this and this, and then tell them that. And if,
Mhm.
that's how you get through that. And it was really cool because I met a lot of people, a lot of really cool people at the time. And that was basically what got me through that loneliness period because at the time, no one in Techno Tutor would talk to me, which understandably so. And when that happened, it was like, it was exactly what I needed. And, I'm an electrician by trade. So I also did like a solar backup power presentation for like a bunch of people during that
Mhm.
time, and just a lot of different things. I even showed a couple people within that organization, Techno Tutor, but they weren't in a place to even understand it. But I mean, I wasn't in a place to even talk about it properly.
Mhm.
Um, However, I remember that started in 2022, and then I remember seeing all the updates online about the 2022 self-perfected event.
Mhm.
So it's like I'm like, another like, oh boy, like what am I experiencing? So it was in 2022 that I really started like thinking, okay, what do I have to do to get back into this? What do I have to do to participate? Like I screwed up big time.
Mhm.
And I remember seeing this one guy's post online about how he had taken responsibility and married his wife, and he fully advertised the fact that he was involved with Techno Tutor. His name is Matthew, and I reached out to him, and I'm like, like what motivated you just to marry your girlfriend on the spot? And we started talking. I told him my whole story, and he's like, what did you do? He's like, I've never heard of you before. I'm like, yeah, that's not a surprise. But he was like, a community has existed for a long time that was created by the guy who created the original Techno Tutor, or what Techno Tutor was before. And he was all about trying to get people to understand why Techno Tutor was so important. And him and I became good friends. He would even get me on the phone sometimes with people who were like either on the fence about Techno Tutor, or they were not happy with something about like the product or the business or whatever. And he'd be like, oh, James understands a lot of this stuff, talk to him. And sometimes it would be just outright people being yelling at me because I was defending it. And I'm not going to mention names, obviously, but it was a very interesting experience in seeing my own reflection of my anger towards the business, for lack of a better explanation. So where do I go from here? So after talking with him a lot, Matthew said, well, maybe it's time for you to figure out how to get back in, because you see how powerful this is. You want to help people understand this. So maybe it's time for you to reach out and try to repair the relationship. And like, I have to give Matthew credit for everything he endured from me, because he saw me at my worst point. And so what happened was, there was like 2 different times where he brought me into conversations about things. And eventually, after seeing so many ranch events, like the pictures of so many Techno Tutor ranch events, I decided, okay, like it's time to face the music. I have a horseshoe stuck up a hole somewhere. And that's the reason why I still have my distributorship rights in this business. But one thing I have to give Avery credit for is he is extremely forgiving, and he sees people's potential, and he will always give someone every chance that they deserve. So, shout out to Avery on that one, and Kim on that one, because they put a lot of effort into what they do to support people, both the business as a whole, especially locally in Vancouver. But basically, I got in contact with Avery again, and I was asked to do certain things, and I was told, okay, these are the things you have to do to participate again. And the biggest thing was basically seeing stability, obviously. And obviously, like, I guess he figures that if I can speak highly enough about this to sell it again, then that's proof enough that I'm ready to participate full on, which I am right now. I am extremely close to that anyways. So it was so what was the next thing that happened? So sorry, a little bit of a brain fog for a moment here. Yeah, I tried for a good year to really get into using Techno Tutor again, but there was just so much anger. There's just so much anger around the whole point of like if I was being honest, I still blamed Avery at the time. And there's other people I blame, but I'm not going to get into that. And it was very hard to use the tools. And Matthew, along with a couple others, really tried to figure out a way, like how can we get you to be able to do this again? Like, how can we bring you back? Because they could tell I was like, I had a dark cloud over my head, which the last 3 to 4 years of my life, like I've just been unable to focus and anything like that. And eventually he connected me with someone who was already in the business, a guy who lives in Europe. And I was told, like, okay, yeah, I know who you are. I know what you did. And in fact, it was someone that I briefly met at the 2024 Self-Perfected event. Where I went there and I'm like, okay, well, like, yeah, in 2024, I went to the Self-Perfected event, and I wasn't sure who knew me, who didn't know me, or who knew what I did. But it was like, it was interesting just seeing that not a lot of people knew. I talked to a lot of people that I didn't know before. Like I saw the video of Joe Jackman. I actually talked to him and his wife at that event, as well as a few other people. Joe Jackman, he's got a story. But what happened was like at the beginning of one thing, a pivotal part of the story was in the beginning of 2025, my dad suffered a heart attack, and he didn't survive, unfortunately. And it basically forced me to move and do a lot of things. But looking back, that the house I stayed with him in, it was a house I grew up in, and there was a lot of things that were holding me back there. So it was almost like just like a month before that, I'm like, okay, I got to figure out how to get out of here. I got to figure out how to turn my life around. I got to figure out a lot of things. And keep in mind that my mom had passed in 2020. So it was almost like a series of events that were necessary for my my growth. Not that I'm saying my parents' deaths were good, but it was. But anyways,
yeah, but it's really when, I mean, I think it's just that release, right? Like you're not being held by their beliefs, their systems, their control anymore, even, right? Because if you're living in their home, you're still in some of their control, right?
well,
So I think
yeah.
having that, as unfortunate it is having the parents passing, it almost gives you a bit of a room to breathe and a release to going, okay, I can do something else now. At least that was kind of what it was when my mom passed. It was like, you know, there was that love-hate relationship with her, and it was just like, okay, but when she passed, it was kind of like, okay, well, I don't have to necessarily be held back by these things anymore. I actually can go and start living life now.
Yeah, well, one thing, I don't know at what point Kevin Trudeau talks about this in the global information stuff, because it was up until 2019 that I was really deep into the global information network information and the stuff that Kevin Trudeau teaches. Because for those people unaware, like Kevin Trudeau used to be part of secret societies, and he left them in order to teach the information to the average person, which was what got me into it in the first place. But it was over time that I started realizing something wasn't right about, like, I hit a ceiling with my education there, as well as almost hit a ceiling with, like, just something wasn't working for me with everything else I was doing. And one thing Kevin Trudeau teaches is that those who are close to you or match your biology have a very powerful effect on you. Like if you're like, unless you have the awareness to know that someone in your family is not saying something that's going to help you, it's very difficult to get out of that, because it's like a, I don't know what to call it, like the DNA link is very powerful. So, but in 2024, like, I made the decision, like, I have to get out of my dad's house somehow. And like I said, it was unfortunate how it happened, but I woke up to my dad falling in the bathtub, having a heart attack, and then unfortunately I had to get out of the house because there was no way it would just be okay for me just to live there. So I moved into another house. It wasn't the best place, but whether you want to say vibrationally, resonantly, it was what I needed, because it matched everything I would need to face. And I had a neighbor there that, as soon as I signed the lease for that place, I met the neighbor, and as soon as me and the neighbor locked eyes, I'm like, uh-oh, there's going to be conflicts here. Like, just, I could see, like, I could sense there was going to be issues. Nothing against her. But you know, you're in where you are exactly where you have to be, is the way I see it. So I spent almost exactly a year there. And, like, even when I was out of my parents' house, I was still miserable. I still had that dark cloud over my head and everything. And, Matthew, amongst others, would try to figure out a way to help me. And then it was like, I remember that this was around the time that in Canada, we had just had an election, and we had someone even worse than Trudeau, if you can believe that. I mean, most people in Canada don't want to believe it, but unfortunately. And I'm just like, there's got to be a way to show people how the law of attraction can be used to turn Canada around.
Mm-hmm.
And I even did a few videos on TikTok that, like, last summer. And as soon as I made the video, I watched the video, and I'm like looking at myself. I'm like, oh my God, I don't even want to listen to that guy. Like, that's where I was. So
Yeah.
I said to myself, like, I was just miserable. I had nothing to lose. And I'm like, there's got to be I had always had resistance to doing process the way I was taught. So I'm like, there's got to be a better way to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I had actually spent a month before that really putting effort in, like, doing everything that is taught in regards to, like, the DIP Pro course. And I actually was connected with someone who was on the DIP Pro team, who I'm not going to mention names, but
Mm-hmm.
I showed this person everything I was doing, and I was told, no, you more or less have it, a few couple tweaks, but you're doing it the way that we would do it. So I'm like, this doesn't make sense, because the more I tried to do it, the harder it got, to the point where I felt like I couldn't even get myself off the floor to do it. And so by some miracle, I was put on the phone with someone in a guy who's now a friend of mine in Europe. And like I said, he told me, yeah, I know who you are. I know everything you've done. It's not a pretty story, but, like, try this. So he gave me a different way of writing and using TechnoTutor. And at this point, I had nothing to lose, because his idea sounded very interesting. So I started doing it, and, like, basically I was holding my hand through it. He was holding my hand through it, and he's like, let's just see where this goes. And he actually gave me a new way of looking at words, as well as words to do with DIP Pro, and to integrate them in a different way, which I found fascinating. And then after a couple months of doing this, well, let's just say I got the miracle. I was at a home show with a friend of mine, like my 80-year-old hippie friend. And this is the kind of person this is the kind of guy who will literally hit on every woman that he sees, like, just complete unfiltered, no shame at all. And he started a conversation with this woman at a table with this one supplement, and he negotiated a really good deal on it. He's like, James, I got a deal on this, but you have to buy 2 with me. And I'm like, okay, fine. I have nothing to lose. Right. And it's the supplement I showed you.
You showed me. Yeah, and it's a lot of good natural ingredients, and it's, I mean, we can have a conversation just about health and wellness and natural support some other day, but it's really good stuff. Yeah, at least what I saw of it. I haven't tried it yet, but at least what I saw of it.
Well, to summarize it, it's a turmeric based supplement with a lot of really good things in it. And I started taking this stuff with my daily drinks, and it took me a day or two to notice it. But after 2 or 3 days, the dark cloud over my head was gone, like literally completely gone, and I could focus for the first time in years. And I thought, like, what the hell? Like, it took me a couple days to really realize, like, I'm not miserable. Like, I'm still unhappy, but I'm not miserable, and it feels like my brain doesn't feel like it's on fire anymore. So it was like, that was really the start of me turning around. And then a couple weeks to a month later, I decided, okay, I want to see what happens when I try working with the word anger, because, like, you and many other people know how much of an angry character I was back then. And it took me a few days to really work with the word anger. But as soon as I did this, the first day of completing this process, it's like I could see the anger coming up, But it was like the second I saw it coming up, I said, no, no, okay, no, I'm not going to give in to the emotion. And I like literally just stopped it within me. And I'm like, whoa, like me not living without anger. This is like Twilight Zone level stuff. And then the next day, the temptation didn't even come up to feel angry. And I like, that was like the most earth shattering thing I've ever experienced. Like anyone who knew me back then will tell you that like James not being angry, like, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Like a complete shift in my personality. And then, so I kept doing this for a couple months. And then I knew eventually that I'm like, okay, I'm no longer angry. I can start thinking about getting a job. And within, like, I started doing this, like, on, like, establishing my intention. What is it that I want to do here? Like, have to figure out the right way to phrase finding a job or finding work. And as I did this, some weird scenarios started showing up where I would literally be invited to dinner with people and they say, oh, you're an electrician. I've got a contract coming up. Like, I like you. I want you to do this contract for me. And like another guy, like, and someone related to him would be like, oh, I'm renovating bathrooms here. Do the electrical work for the bathrooms. Like just, I mean, it was happening slowly, but like it started ramping up quite considerably. And like, I remember I was getting frustrated because like nothing was manifesting to solve the job point. And I thought, okay, I need to find a new place to live because as long as I'm in this environment, I can't focus properly because I don't really have any privacy. Like the walls were almost paper thin in this house that I was in the basement of. So I just instinctively decided to work with the word blame. And once I did the word blame, the night, one evening later, or maybe it was the same night, but I immediately started having the urge to do forgiveness with my parents. And over like an hour or two, I just started doing self-forgiveness, which is advocated by a lot of the techno tutor crowd. Like I must have done like an hour of self-forgiveness on my parents and must have like started bawling my eyes out for like a good 20 minutes. I don't know how long I was doing it. But after that, like I immediately had this release of like, I no longer wanted to be angry at them. And I no longer wanted to be angry at my neighbor anymore either. Like I just had this serene feeling come about me. And 2 days later, I was on a ferry with a friend going to Vancouver Island. For those in Vancouver know what I'm talking about. And on that ferry, I ran into a woman I knew from years ago who I actually rented a room from just after all the stuff with the fallout of attacking Techno Tutor. And I told her, oh yeah, I've been looking for a place to live, but don't worry, I'm not going to ask to stay in one of your rooms. And she's like, well, the basement just emptied. The guy just left the basement a month ago. And I'm like, really? So a couple days later, I went to look at her basement, and like I automatically knew like it felt so much lighter to be there. And her and I had a way better relationship than we did 4 years ago when I was all angry. So, you know, going back home that night, I briefly saw my old neighbor, and we locked eyes for 1 minute, and then she like immediately shut the door, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting out of here. So, but it was like moving into the new place that I'm in now, like I just felt freer. I felt so much better. And like me and my new landlady, like the best relationship I've ever had with anyone I've ever rented from. And like, it's like, you know, it's almost like we're friends. Like we were friends already, but it's like everything just works out so well. And like, we just get along so well like that. And then, so like, that was the beginning of me like really expressing real freedom for myself. And then about a couple weeks later, I really started getting into self-forgiveness again, like really feeling like I could, and doing this within a 48-hour period. I had 2 separate job offers and like they called me.
Nice.
Because what happened was a friend of mine who, when I started turning around, back in October, November last year. He has always wanted to get into business with me. A guy I actually met him through Jin back in like 2012, and he's always been there trying to figure out, okay, is James ready to be a mature person yet? So he started like giving me all these ideas, and he'd call me every day like, oh, I got an idea that we can do. And I'm like, okay, let's hear it. But I actually did some work with him late last year and early this year to really get into some cool stuff. But he knew a guy, and he literally was on the phone with me with this other guy, and they called me and said, "Oh, James, I remember talking to you," because this was a guy I talked to about a year after I had attacked Techno Tutor, and he's like, "Yeah, we need good people down for like to come over here and do sales and this other stuff that's right down your alley," and like just the overall conditions of the job. It's like I'm just like, is this for real? Am I being punked here? And so it's like the current plan is to pursue that, but it was like one offer to work locally, another offer to go to a better place to work, and it was like what have like I finally figured out what works for me, and like I'm manifesting miracles here, and just ever since then, just getting into the self-forgiveness with using Techno Tutor this way that really works for me. It's like I'm just like the one thing I was telling you about before, how like I really worked on the word angry like about a week ago. And when I did that, this whole like Zen feeling came across me that I don't think I've ever felt it. And I like it was almost like when I did that, I started to feel like I had a mask on, and like taking this mask off that you've been wearing your whole life, throwing it on the ground and being like, oh my God, like I've been wearing that thing my whole life. And it's been kind of like how much more change can there be here? Like how much better can I get? And like even this, like you and some others are aware of like a family dilemma I have, and where it's either, like get into a fight over it or just find a better way. It's like my words around that situation even changed overnight to like, okay, how do I, it's like, I don't want to fight anymore. How do I convince these people to change their mind? How do I persuade them? Like, how do I come at this with this attitude of like, I'm okay with walking away from the whole thing, or I'm okay with like, just this real like Zen feeling that that's the best thing I can think of. But it's just been, and like since then, like, as I told you today, I think I did 4 or 5 hours of self-forgiveness just on this point of, because yesterday I was dealing with someone I know, and actually it was the same guy who basically forced me to buy that supplement. And a point that him and others have been bringing up to me lately that like it's a big trigger for me, especially to do with like change and all that, and just really working through this point of self-forgiveness. And it's like I can't do enough self-forgiveness. I'm honestly like I hit a lot of points with it, but like last night when I was doing this, I'm like, okay, I'm hitting the point of what happened just before the whole car thing, like the car thing. And and like last night when I was finishing, I'm like, okay, the whole forgiving this whole car point and forgiving Avery and all that, it's coming up. Like I know it's coming up, and I was doing it this morning, and I'm like doing it for 4 or 5 hours, and that point still hasn't come up, and I'm like, whoa, there's a lot behind this. But it's like, for the first time ever, I can't actually believe I'm saying this, but I'm actually looking forward to forgiving it all. Like forgiving myself, forgiving Avery, forgiving everyone involved. And like, this is not me. Like, I don't even know who I am anymore because I'm changing so much with this process I've went to do. And like, 'cause I remember just the funny thing was that just as that car thing happened, I was working in like the film business, and everyone knew I was getting more miserable because I had this car I didn't want, and it was ugly, but like that was a point where I was starting to really get unhappy about my life, seeing how unhappy I was with everything in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to go through a process of I guess you could say a process of seeing that I didn't want that anymore. Like, I didn't want to be angry. I didn't want to be miserable. I didn't want to be depressed. But it's like in the last 8 months since I started doing this, like the decision to let go of those things has become so much easier. It's like things click for me way better. And I can't even explain it, because this is so, what I've been doing has helped me so much that it's like every week almost I feel like I'm letting go of something and becoming a new person. Like, I don't even recognize who I was even 2 months ago. So it's been like the miracle I needed. And now I'm in the mindset of like, this is how I change in order to become effective in the world. Because now I actually know I can do that. I can change to the point of being extremely effective and influential, so that I can help make a difference in the world. Once, like, I'm in the final stages right now of fixing my life and fixing all the problems that happened over the last 7-8 years. So for the first time in the last 7 years, I actually know I can fix it all and like have the best life I possibly can have. So like, from my perspective, it's just starting for me. And like, I can't even predict where this is gonna go, but it's only getting better with each week I push myself. Each week I keep going through it.
And you know what's really incredible, because I've been able to see you on this journey, and I mean, you saw me on my journey too. We've both had our journeys that we've gone through in the last little while, especially I think really in the last year. Like, that was really a year ago for me, was when I really hit my point of like, oh gosh, going deep and doing and being able to do the work. Because before that, I wasn't even able to do it. Like, I knew what I had to do, but I wasn't able to face it, and I wasn't able to say, yes, I'm willing to go there. Right. So it was a year ago that I actually was able to do that. And, sometimes we get put in these situations where we just, we're getting all these signals from our environment, from our bodies, and we just won't pay attention until it just hits us so hard. We can't do anything else but make the choice to say, okay, and now I have to figure this out. And now I have to really go to those places I didn't want to go, to really be able to move forward and be better. Right? Be happier, be effective. Because I think that was a big struggle for me too. But I've seen how much you've changed in this last little while too. And I mean, even like your whole, like, you as a person in your face is just different, right? Like, it's like, there's actually like, when you say you're feeling zen, like, for people who've known you, they'll see the zen in you now. Like, they'll see that peace and calm in you now, where it wasn't before. But I think my point of actually really pointing this out and stating this is that when you have support from people and you can finally, get something to work for you and figuring out the right way for so, and it doesn't have to be like one particular way. Like, when people say this is the only way to do something in life, like this is the only way to tie your shoes. Well, maybe you tie your shoes a different way and it works better for you because it feels better with your hands to tie them that way. Like, whatever. I mean, it doesn't have to be like there's a narrow focus of one way, but it's like, how do I best, get the best support with something, and how many different people do I have to talk to before somebody actually can speak in a way I can understand, right?
Yeah.
And that's a big thing too, is that and then one thing, I mean, we've been talking a lot about Technotutor today, but because it's been so impactful in your life, right? There's been so many things around that, and that's why we've talked so much about it today. But when you find something that's, we can talk to each other. I mean, how many people speak English in the world and have fights with people, right? Because they can't understand each other. They can't They're speaking the same language, but they don't understand. Right. So having an understanding with somebody who can communicate in a way that you can get to a point and say, now I get this, or now I can see it this way, I think is just incredible. And I think it's a point, like, don't give up. Like, you certainly didn't give up. You kept trying to fight for finding the right way, even when you were like not, I mean, and people are showing up for you, trying to make you say, hey, we want to help you.
Well, I mean, I wanted to gloss over this part, but it was pretty close to it came pretty close to not working. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just shortly before I started trying this new thing, that I pretty much almost gave up, and because I didn't want to face the eventualities of my circumstances at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like it showed up exactly when I needed it. But I mean, the two cool things I wanted to point out is, one, you and I were mentioning before, like I had to ask you, like, why do my eyes look different right now?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at my eyes, like, I don't know what's different about them, but they look different. And as well, like, there's this one guy who I've been talking to, that Matthew introduced me to, who's and his name is Connor. Some people might know who he is, but him and I, like, you could say we were programmed to clash. Like, we're the kind of
mm-hmm.
personalities that clash.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I was told, okay, you have enough awareness to change this, to change the relationship between the two of you. And I did, like, I basically made a very specific intention about supporting him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did a lot of self-forgiveness. I probably did about maybe 4 hours of self-forgiveness on that point, and realizing that he reminded me of kids I hated when I was younger. And the next day, him and I were talking like we were brothers. It was one of the weirdest things I've ever experienced. But it's like, when you find that method of self-forgiveness
mm-hmm.
that works, it's an absolute game changer. So that's like, I literally, like, I mean, I don't want to sound like full of myself when I say this, but right now I'm just kind of getting used to, like, okay, like, I've been manifesting miracles lately,
mm-hmm.
and I don't see it stopping, because I know exactly how to do it now. I know exactly how to manifest miracles for myself.
Yeah.
So, like, my goal now is to, like, okay, how, like, not how, but once my life really is back on track, like, my goal is, okay, how do I get this person to realize that they can create a better life for themselves,
mm-hmm.
and show them how I'm doing it, because I now understand the mechanics of this.
Right.
And it's like, literally everything that's happened to me in the last 8 months, the solution literally fell into my lap. I did not have to do anything out of the ordinary in order to get it. So
mm-hmm.
it's like, now I'm like, okay, who do I share this with? Like, how do I find people that I can share this with?
Right.
Just, I know the more work I do, the more it's naturally going to come to me.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I'm getting used to that mindset, but realizing the more things I let go of, the easier it'll be.
Yeah. And I'm so grateful that you were able to come and have this conversation with me, because I know it's been a hard struggle and a journey for you. I mean, I've seen you, right? We've known each other for years. I would see you. We would talk sometimes, but I do know how hard it is. But I'm so grateful you came and shared, because there's so many people right now who I think can relate to what you're going through, like, who can relate to that dark cloud and that anger and not being able to get out of it, and really understanding and feeling very frustrated that they can't move forward, and everything seems
mm-hmm.
to be crumbling in the world and getting worse, right? So, somebody's going to hear this, and it's going to reach them, and actually realize, like, there is support for me. There's ways out of this, and I don't have to do this alone. And I just have to reach out to somebody, and talk to somebody in our groups, whoever they can, get, there's contact in the description. They can always, reach out to me, and I can connect them to people and tools and things too. Right. But I just want really people to understand, like, you're not alone in this, and you're not the only one going through this, even though it feels so lonely and dark in that point. Because, I mean, going through my dark time and hitting my rock bottom, it felt like there was nobody there, right? Even though I knew I had the support of the community here and some good friends, and but it really, really does feel lonely when you are in that position and you can't see your way out. So I'm so grateful you just sharing this, because somebody's going to hear it and somebody's going to realize I can get help, but also there's tools to support me. And they don't have to go on drugs necessarily to be the tool. So, yeah. So I'm grateful for that. And
thanks for asking me. I mean, I was like, it was kind of funny, because the last meeting we had, I was like, I mean, it's funny, and not to down anyone else who was there, but up until like October of last year, it was like everyone else would be coming laughing and having a good time, and I'd be the person who's like being angry and miserable and complaining about everything. And it was almost an exact flip of that. I'm like, I hope I'm not the only, I said right out loud, I hope I'm not the only one here with good news today.
Yeah.
But it was, someone else had some good news that I was.
I had some good news that happened after some things. I was like, okay, and then the good came out of it. But yeah.
True. I mean, one point that it has been a predominant issue is that, like, Katie, and Katie, who is one of the founders of Techno Tutor, she once told me, yes, you're a very intense person, but you're also, like, how did she say it? You're very intense, and when you're ready for it, things will work. And that's usually how it happens. But it was like, I guess that the point that I struggled with for so long was accepting that power that I had. Because I know I'm an intense personality, or at least I was. I mean, when I look at it, I'm like, what was it like dealing with me when I was angry? And I'm like almost looking for someone who can show that to me. Actually, believe it or not, I actually did see that recently.
Careful what you ask for. You're going to get it.
No, I mean, I explained the situation to both Avery and Elise at the last meeting, and explained what happened, explained who was involved. And Avery is like, James, what were you thinking? And I'm like, I needed to see that personality, and I needed to see that to say, never again. I will never be like that again. And I don't want to say waste my time on that kind of personality, but it's like, I have to know that the person really wants to make their life better. And I have to know when to say, okay, let the person go until they're ready for it. I mean, I'm not going to force anyone. I'm not going to shove it down anyone's throats. I mean, there was a couple people that have asked me about it, and that I'm kind of guiding them through what I've learned.
Right.
But it's like, you can bring the horse to water, but the horse is not going to, you can't force the horse to drink it. And that's no judgment on anyone who is or is not ready for it. It's just, you have to work on yourself. And the better you get, the more people will probably listen to you, and the better people will be more receptive to you. But it's like I just remember making that decision. Like, how long ago was that? That was like just over a month ago, like maybe 6 weeks ago that was happening. And I just made the decision. I refuse to participate in that anger. I refuse to take my problems out on other people. Like, cause it's, I won't do that anymore. And that's the big shift that's been happening lately. So, and just, be kind to those who do not know or do not understand, because they just need enough support when they're ready for it.
Yeah.
Is kind of the attitude I'm starting to take on.
Yeah, and
So
people can only handle certain things at certain points too, right? Like
yeah,
you're right when they're ready for it, because not everyone can face some of these things. I mean, look at how long it was before I say decided to face it, but it was more like if I didn't face it, they were like, well, I don't know where I would be. But like there's a point where some of us just have to really hit that hard point before we're
hmm
ready to face something and move on and deal with it and actually go, okay, I can resolve this and transform this now and really heal from it to actually be a better person and move on and be effective, in my
yeah,
community and everything like this, right? So but unfortunately, that is, some of us really just have to hit that hard wall before we get that message. Others people get it a little bit earlier. They stub their
yeah,
toe and they go, okay, the owl, I don't want to do that again. So let's learn from it. But some of us run full into the brick wall until we
yeah,
figure it out. So
yeah. Well, I mean,
um,
one point I wanted to bring up, I kind of touched on it earlier, but one of the things that really helped me when I was in my darker moments was the self-perfected calls, because that's all I had for a while, other than
mhm,
Matthew calling me once in a while to see how I was doing. But I mean, those guys put everything in. I mean, every Friday night they're there, and
mhm,
it was like, I know that I don't know whether they considered kicking me out of self perfected after what I did, but the fact that they decided not to, like,
mhm,
that was a big help, having that resource there in my darkest times. And of course, there's so many people that I would want to thank for trying to
mhm,
help me at my worst times.
mhm,
But like that, like Drake and Mitch especially, and I know Magyar plays a role in it too. But those guys, they're there every week, and it takes
mhm.
a lot of dedication. So like my hat is off to those guys, and obviously the fact that um, Avery and I guess Cameron played a role in the decision to give me another chance.
Mhm.
And Avery has, like, everyone who knows Avery knows that, like, he's that teddy bear that you just got to love for everything he does for the movement. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, what I've really realized too is that and I mean, I think it's important that we're talking about this, and specifically with the group, because it is a real community. And I didn't realize like actually what a community it was and how supportive they really were and how caring they
mhm,
actually are. And even like when they do, you, not, I wouldn't say confront, but bring something to light that you're not wanting to face, and just
mhm,
like they're doing it with the utmost care for you. They're not doing it to be spiteful or mean, right? Whereas like I know, gosh, I've probably even had friends who would say things out of spite or because it's mean or whatever. But honestly, everyone here I'm finding is just being more and more supportive and really, helping each other be accountable to themselves, but doing it with like the most genuine caring possible, right? Like they're not out going, oh well, let's just knock this person down. Like it's no, like, hey, you've got this thing that we can see, and we really want you to like see it and face it and work through it, and
mhm.
because we see the better person you are, um, which is rare, honestly. Like to find a group of people who are genuine like that, and not trying to get, oh, am I going to get a promotion out of you, or am I going to get a boyfriend or girlfriend out of you, or like whatever that is, right? Because that happens at a lot of places. Like you're with those people to a point, but till they can't use you anymore, right?
Like, there's an ulterior motive.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, for people who are watching and like listening to like this and going, why do these people just keep talking about the techno tutor and the self-perfected, and like what is this? It's like it's because it's
Yeah.
such an incredible community that really challenges your thinking and challenges you as a person to be better and to grow and through these things. So that's
Yeah.
why
Well,
people keep mentioning it and talking about it, because I'm sure some people are going, what on earth already?
well, I mean, one of my, I, you're probably gonna laugh at this, but one of the reasons I really wanted to come back to the techno tutor community was like, so many people just don't get this stuff, and like I was just like secretly like, the best opportunity I see for finding a woman is in that community. So like there was a motive, but I'm like, but looking back, I'm like I kind of gave up on the whole dating point for a while, because I'm just realizing, like, this was about a few months before my dad died. I had to realize, like, I'm in no shape for that. Like, even if there was someone interested in me, like, I'd scare her away in record speed, like I always have done. And I know Avery saw that too. But on the whole point of like finding the right people, like one thing I noticed within the Global Information Network was it's like it slowly introduces you to what's called the universal laws. And the law of attraction is one of those. So the more you go down this road of self-improvement, the more you realize, okay, whatever I do to other people is going to happen to me somehow, because you start to realize that there's always an exchange going on, whether it's physical, psychological, or, spiritual, as some people like to call it, that, when you give out, the equivalent of what you give has to come back to you somehow. You always have to receive what you give somehow. And I think a lot of people in self-perfected and techno-tutor community, they get that because they've done enough work that it's like their view of everything is a lot clearer. And that's one thing I noticed with techno-tutor is that like it helps you get clarity.
Right.
So, I mean, that's one reason I like that is because it's like, that's the process of, I don't know, like awakening maybe would be the right, I'm not sure what the right word is, but that's, of all the places I've been, that is probably the most concentrated of people who think that way. So it's like, that's another reason I wanted to come back. I'm like, I can't handle, like, it's hard to be in the real world, because most people, they're in the real world, don't get it. Their education teaches them to have the scarcity mindset. And if and someone who has a scarcity mindset can't think about these kind of things. But like I said, my journey over the last, like, my real waking up journey started 16 years ago when I found the Global Information Network and all the friendships I got from there. Like, that's when I really started to learn these things. But it's like, once you see it all, it's hard to not have that kind of community, because it's like, I mean, I don't even know the metaphor for it. So,
well, I mean, it's really like being down here in Mexico. I mean, especially in Cabo, there's a lot of foreigners down here, whether they're part-time, full-time, 6 months a year, whatever, right? Or just visiting. A lot of people like to do the nomad work now, so they'll come down for 3 or 4 months. But regardless, and then we have a lot of tourism, right? So regardless, there's a lot of foreigners living down here in Cabo. But I think in some ways it's a detriment, because it is like what you're saying, like, you don't know how to explain it. It's like, well, there's a group of foreigners here who will only hang out with a group of foreigners. They're making zero effort to try to integrate with the culture. They're making zero effort to learn any Spanish, like even just to be polite in stores and to have something. And they feel like everything should be working the way it was back where they're from, right? Whatever country. Like, if the system doesn't work the same way, the banking doesn't work the same way, they get all mad and upset, and everything's so bad down here. Instead of like going, hey, this is a whole different country, a whole different culture. You came here. Maybe you should try to learn some Spanish. I'm not saying be fluent, but learn some. Maybe you should talk to people and try to be friends with people outside of the foreigner community. Like, you came to Mexico. You didn't move to another part of your country, right? So I think that's we can make that similarities where it's like, you don't know how to say it. It's like, well, there's a similarity. It's like, you can get stuck in your bubble and only want that thing. But then it's like, you got to kind of look outside the bubble too, because there's so many amazing things outside. And yeah, there's going to be differences, right? But I think maybe that's, for me, that just kind of came to mind. You're like saying you don't know how. It's like, well, I just see it right here. Like, this is complete, And then there's people like me who are like, I want to integrate. I want to live here. I want to understand the culture, so let me work on my Spanish and let me try to, I live in a Mexican neighborhood. I think I'm the only white girl here, but it's a good neighborhood. It's not like the slums, right? Like, it's a good Mexican neighborhood, but I'm one of few, like, let's put it that way, like, Westerners or foreigners down here. But I mean, my landlord, she speaks English very well, but I speak to her in Spanish, and then she'll reply to me in Spanish. But if she needed to speak English to me, she could. she has the language, you know.
Yeah. Well, I
But
think that's a big part of that is etiquette and realizing, okay, when you're in someone's house, you respect the rules. Even if you don't like the rules, then don't stay in their house. But that's a big I mean, that's a point for me, is like a big etiquette point. Ironically, that I, what I did, I know it's an ironic thing for me to say, but it's like, there's nothing, you have nothing to lose with etiquette and with, respecting the customs of where you are. In fact, that actually works out for you most of the time when you learn the etiquette and customs of wherever you are.
Yeah.
Things generally go better for you. So but yeah, that's that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, well, anyways, James, I know we've been at this for a little while, and we could talk all night long. I know we could. So,
yeah.
But I want to ask you, and I ask everybody this question: if you were to go back to your 10-year-old self, what advice would you give him?
I saw that you asked this question to previous interviews, but when I'm trying to think if I was exactly 10 when this happened, but when I was 10 years old, cool story, very short one. I was into softball, and I had this idea because I wanted to be a pitcher, and I remember the second or third year I was in softball. I said, okay, I want to be the pitcher for my team, and the next year, my friend's dad decided to be a coach, and they put me on the team. And I'm like, oh, I want to. He's like, okay, we need a pitcher. I'm like, I want to be the pitcher. And I'm not going to lie, we were one of the worst teams in the league, but I was the pitcher of the team. So that's like, that was my first real manifestation in my life. And if I could go back and do one thing to tell that young James, I would say, you're on the figuring out how reality works. Keep it up. You just did your first manifestation. Keep going, master manifestation, and don't ever let anyone tell you that you can't, because you're the only one who can say that you can't. So that's exactly what I would tell that to any kid. Now, if I knew they had the vocabulary to understand it, which conveniently there's a community of people with kids that are probably learning that right now. So. But there you go.
That's amazing. I love that. And, I think a lot of people can take something from that now. You can manifest, you can create it, your own reality.
Exactly.
Yeah. Amazing. And, I mean, any last words of advice, any last thoughts that you want to share with people right now?
Just, if you're stuck, if you think that there's no hope, the most powerful thing in the universe is 1, breath, and 2, intention. If you just be clear about those 2 things and know what you want or need to do, just make that decision. Take a little bit of action, and you probably be surprised what happens. I mean, that's what got me here. So that's the best advice I can give anyone.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much, James. I really appreciate you being here and sharing. And I know there's a lot of good things in here that people can hear and take for themselves and use tonight. And I just really am grateful for you showing up and doing this, because I know this was a bit of a challenge. So thank you.
Well, thanks for having me. Thanks for doing this chat.